spirits from the grave, come forth, lift us from the black, and show us the way back.
Dark spirits? Ain't no dark spirits. Don't you make no dark spirits come out.
Lift us.
Why, hello, foolish mortals, and welcome back to the Spookiest Diaries. October is chugging right along, and so are we with another spooky episode.
Spooky.
We're three old singing ghosts learning everything we can about movies and TV, and hopefully teaching you in the process. I am Adam.
I'm Marcy.
And I'm Robin. Ooh, okay, we're going to stop.
Right, yeah. That was great, though, you know?
I don't know.
People like it.
Yeah.
If it gets them in the mood.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Get that spooky energy.
Room gritty ghosts.
Mm-hmm. We've seen movies based on books, comic books, fairy tales, myths, and even songs. But this week, we're looking into another Disney film that was based on a theme park ride.
Yeah, this is such a unique thing to Disney.
Yes, it is.
Really, it's doesn't
Literally
really happen.
is.
It happens the other way around in most other places.
Yeah.
Last year, we did an episode on the Hollywood Tower of Terror,
Hell yeah.
a 1997 made-for-TV film based on an iconic ride at Walt Disney World. Since Tower of Terror made its debut, Disney has produced several films based on some of its most popular theme park attractions, the most successful being Pirates of the Caribbean.
Undisputed, right?
Of course.
That's the one.
By far. In the fall of 2003, Disney released a live-action film based on its spookiest ride, The Haunted Mansion.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Bucket list ride.
I want to go. Yes,
So bad.
I want to go on this ride so badly.
Yes. This family-friendly adventure was a fascinating display of physical and practical effects and featured many callbacks to the original ride. However, it was heavily criticized by critics and fans alike for its unimaginative and simple plot, and for having a laughless script.
Aww.
I'm telling you,
Rude.
these reviews were brutal.
Yes. But in recent years, many fans have revisited the once-hated Haunted Mansion and have defended it against the overwhelming negativity surrounding the film.
Yeah, this is one that's so interesting to me because I saw it in theaters when I was a kid. I remember watching it. I remember the whole experience. Thought it was good. Fine.
Nice.
Yeah.
The parents in the audience laughed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, people seemed to have a good time.
Yeah.
I had no idea the level of hatred
Wow.
that this film got.
Seriously.
I really didn't. I thought it was fine. Like
I was
Yeah.
surprised, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, and it must have been because I was a kid at the time and,
Mhm.
whatever. But watching it now, I'm like, I still think it's
Why?
crazy.
It's chill,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still fine.
Mhm.
So, we have decided to revisit the movie as well. Not as critics, mind you, but as spooky historians uncovering its past and how it came to be. So be sure to bring your death certificate and follow us into the terrifying halls of the Haunted Mansion.
So, what are you guys' experiences with this movie?
You know, being a not fond of scary things person, it took me a minute to see it, just because I wasn't, like, you know, it was a movie called The Haunted Mansion, and I didn't look into it. Just like, oh, that's probably scary.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bother. But later on, I want to say, like, right before high school, maybe, I ended up seeing it because I was like, oh, Eddie Murphy's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of
like, it's gotta
course
be-
it's a
yeah.
comedy.
I mean, how scary can it
Yeah,
be?
Right,
seriously.
yeah. And I was like, oh, shoot, you know what? Pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. You know, it's got, I loved all the calls to the ride because I knew about the ride.
Mm-hmm.
All the cool stuff at Disneyland, because definitely want to go to that someday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But turning a ride into a movie is such a unique thing that it's
Yeah.
worth a shot
Oh,
on its
yeah.
own, you know?
And at this time, Disney was putting out a bunch of movies like this,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them were, to put it
Right.
nicely.
Right.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, like, Country Bears,
Oh,
I mean, who
Yeah.
remembers the freaking Country Bears?
I remember the previews for it on
Yeah.
VHS.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Yeah.
I never watched
Yeah, that's what we're contending with. with Haunted Mansion.
But yet, this got all the hate?
I mean, I don't think Country Bears is a beloved
That's true,
film, but
I think Country Bears should have been an animated cartoon, like a
yeah,
show.
Yeah.
that sounds
Maybe
about
then
right.
it could have
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah,
Could be. So for me, this one I did not see as a kid. I feel like it was one of those that I was either A, not allowed to watch, or B, just like didn't
Sounds
have
about right.
access to,
Mhm.
or a combination of the two. So didn't really watch it when I was a kid. And I believe I only watched it, was it just last year?
Oh,
I think it was just last year I
yeah.
watched it for the
Ah.
first time.
yeah,
And
I think so.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's it's pretty lighthearted. It's pretty upbeat.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not an Oscar winner,
No,
but I
right.
mean,
But
I think it's
know.
actually kind of funny. I
Yeah.
think there are a few jokes that
Mhm.
do land, and
Mhm.
I think that it's overall a pretty fun, delightful
Yeah,
movie.
And
And
I
so
liked the actors. A lot
Yeah.
of them I knew
I
from
think
when I was a kid.
yeah, I
so.
think it was a little unfairly judged.
Yeah,
for
honestly,
sure.
it's what.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people nowadays might agree with us
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
We'll see.
revisited.
We'll see. We'll get some hate mail.
Oh, jeez.
How could you?
So, before we talk about the history of the movie, we're going to talk
Yeah.
about the history of the ride.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
All aboard.
Yes. So I have never ridden this ride.
Same.
None of us
Nope.
have. None of us have been to Disneyland. If anyone would like to fund our trip,
Yeah.
Please.
we would accept that.
yeah, we
you
would
know?
accept that, sure. But yeah, we honestly, I've never been there, but I'm very familiar with this ride because when I was growing up, I religiously watched Disney's Halloween Treat, and
Yes.
the intro very heavily features the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that's what we were looking at, honestly,
Mhm.
at the time, but it looked so cool. That, and also, I always had Disney discs that had all this music on it.
Mhm.
And one of them was Grim Grinning Ghosts, which is, I can't think of a better Disney song, I'll be
Yeah.
honest.
It's masterful.
Like,
It's going to be hard, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, for a theme park song,
Mhm.
it's pretty good.
It's certainly better than Small World.
Yeah, I know. If that's what we're competing with, I really feel
Yeah.
like. So Grim Grinning Ghost is fantastic.
Mhm.
If you've never heard it, look it up on Spotify.
Yeah.
Yeah, put it in your favorites
It's
immediately.
so good. It's especially at Halloween.
At
Get it
least,
in
yeah,
there.
put it
Yeah.
in your Halloween party
Yes.
playlist.
So before we get into the story behind the film, Haunted Mansion, we need to talk about the history behind the ride. Sometime in the late 1950s, as Walt Disney pushed his Imagineers to create the most visually stunning and mechanically complex attractions for his new theme park, Imagineer Raleigh Crump joined the team tasked with creating a Museum of the Weird. As the attraction developed, it evolved into a haunted house filled with ghosts and other strange phenomena.
Interesting. I wonder what the very beginnings of that idea were going to
Yeah.
be. You know,
Yeah.
what's a museum of the weird
Yeah.
that's not ghostly?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Construction on the exterior of the ride began in 1961 and lasted only 2 years. Imagineers took inspiration from an unlabeled image of the Shipley Lydecker House, located in Maryland, for the mansion's design. I've seen the picture of this house. Yep.
Mhm.
Mm.
Very close. The house also has influences from homes in Louisiana at the turn of the century. Walt specifically wanted the exterior to remain neat and clean, reportedly saying, "We'll take care of the outside and let the ghosts take care of the inside."
Whoa, funny.
Yes.
What a funny man.
And I love that is such a fun detail because, guys, if we're building a haunted house, what do?
Yeah.
We make the
Yeah.
outside look creepy.
Mhm.
We make it dirty and look unlived in.
Yeah.
But not this. This is like an elegant mansion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, a beautiful place and like inviting and nice. And then you go inside and it's filled with ghosts.
Mhm.
Although the exterior had been completed in 1963, it sat dormant for several years. Park visitors could see the attraction, but the only indicator of what they could expect from the inside was a sign alerting all passing spirits that post-lifetime leases were available in the Haunted Mansion.
Ah,
Hilarious.
that is.
Love those kinds of jokes.
Raleigh Crump continued to make hundreds of sketches for the interior of the ride. he and another Imagineer named Yal Gracie used new technology and age-old illusions to fill the sound stages with haunting scenes. They and their team built audio animatronics of the ghostly characters. To make them appear ethereal, Crump and Gracie used a technique called the Pepper's Ghost illusion. Have you guys ever heard of this?
It rings a bell because I know I've watched things on this ride before talking about
Yeah.
it, but
It's wild.
yeah.
You know, there's a picture of them working on one of the animatronics from the angle of a rider.
Right.
Okay.
And it literally looks like they're touching a ghost.
Yeah.
It's like
my
it kind of breaks your
gosh.
brain. You're like, why aren't your
Wow.
hands going through it? It's so weird.
How does that work?
Yeah. Named for a 19th century scientist, this trick uses a large piece of glass that sits at an angle between a well-lit room and a hidden one. Guests of the haunted mansion look straight on at the lit staged room as the glass reflects the hidden room. When the lights are dimmed in the staged room and the dark hidden room is illuminated, the scene in the hidden room appears to the audience.
Aha.
Yeah, so the lights switch and it's like, ghost! There's a ghost there.
Oh, so you're seeing
Damn.
kind of a reflection in a way.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I've seen people talk about doing this trick with the split beam mirror too.
Mm-hmm.
And just, there are lots of variations of this trick.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that the variation they do at Disney is probably secret, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right, the
Little bit.
exact
Yeah.
workings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even today, still, this is an example of a ride that's like the favorite among so many
Yeah.
like park normals. Like they go all the time, and their favorite ride is still Haunted Mansion because of how cool it is, and
It's just
these
so cool.
effects
Yeah.
are so well done that it's believable. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Disney's Imagineers also developed the Doom Buggy, which is
Whoa.
which is the seat that carries guests through the house. This ride is a variation of the Omnimover, which means the cars can swivel in all directions while still staying on the track. Because of this, riders only see what the Imagineers want them to see.
Aha, gotcha.
Yeah, you don't have the ability to look around the room.
Yeah.
You're in a car and it's telling you what to look at, and that's helpful
Yeah.
because that way you will look at the attractions at the exact right angle that you're supposed to.
Yeah.
You'll see the ghosts.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't want to say all because I don't know, but a lot of dark rides are done this way.
Mm-hmm.
Work on the Haunted Mansion halted in 1966 after the death of Walt Disney left the team with no direction in terms of the tone of the ride. Imagineer Mark Davis eventually decided that a mixture of scares and silliness would be the way to go. They didn't know how serious the ride should
Yeah.
be. They didn't know
Mhm.
what Walt wanted.
Mm-hmm.
We know that at this time, everything was hard at Disney because it was like
Mm-hmm.
everybody wanted to do what he wanted, but he wasn't around to tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also pushed for the ride to be more character-driven, with featured ghosts that stood out to the park guests, which is honestly what made the ride so special to a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has its own lore.
Yeah,
basically.
people have their favorite ghosts, and he was the reason that those were added to the
Aw.
ride. In August of 1969, the Haunted Mansion opened its doors. The ride was a huge hit and continues to be one of the most iconic attractions at Disneyland.
You know that you've done it right when so many years later
Mm-hmm.
it's still untouched, basically.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure they've updated a few things and maintained it.
Yeah.
And I know they decorate it with Nightmare Before Christmas
Yes,
stuff
they
sometimes.
change.
Yeah.
They'll shut it down, and they'll get it ready for the holidays, and they will they'll change the aesthetic of it to match Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's cute. But that's a testament to how beloved this ride is.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have argued that the Tower of Terror is just as iconic, but Disneyland disagrees.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I mean, that's
as long
the
as the
yeah.
Haunted Mansion sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that this one being older, and I think, being one that was so heavily featured in Disney media,
Yeah.
in the beginning, that we,
Yeah.
three kids from the middle of America who've never been
Mhm.
to Disneyland, we knew about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know a lot about it. It's not like we just, only kind of know that the ride exists.
And I can just picture the beginning of Disney's Halloween Treat where the ghost pops up and is calling one And
all tonight. Anyway, listen to our episode on Disney's Halloween Treat. That was actually a really good old episode that we did.
It is. Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay. So, for those of you that haven't seen this movie, I'm going to give a little summary now,
Hey now.
Yeah. In an attempt to prove to his wife that he isn't neglecting his children for work, real estate agent Jim Evers agrees to take the family on a weekend getaway. Just before leaving, the couple receive a call from a mysterious potential client, asking the Evers to meet him at his mansion. Soon after the family arrives, they discover that the mansion is haunted by several ghosts.
999 to be exact.
Wow.
One of which is Master Gracie, who believes that Jim's wife, Sarah, is the living embodiment of his lost love. Jim must find a way to navigate the halls of this strange and terrifying house, reunite with his family, and save his wife from falling under Gracie's spell. Oof,
Steal
yikes.
my wife, ghost.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea.
It
Yeah.
is. In an effort to prove that he's not neglecting his children.
Yeah.
When he 100%
Oh, yeah.
is neglecting his children.
Yeah.
It's just funny.
All right, so now that we got all that out of the way, let's talk about something that, we never talk about, the making of.
Yeah. How was this movie made?
Yeah, how was it made?
With
Well,
cameras.
yeah.
The end.
All right, I think we did our job. Moving on. Like most films that come out of Hollywood, the idea for a film adaptation of The Haunted Mansion was several years in the making. Disney first started working on the idea back in the early 90s, and an early version of the script was drafted by Sheila Greenberg and James Hill. This version of the film focused on a storyline that wasn't used in the final ride, about a sea captain.
Yeah, this was a scrapped storyline for the ride.
But because of the unsuccessful showing of Hocus Pocus in 1993, Disney decided to scrap any horror comedy projects.
How funny is that?
Whoops.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus absolutely bombed. Critics hated it. It didn't do well financially, but it became a cult classic. And Disney did not foresee that. Hocus Pocus is now one of Disney's most profitable franchises because the amount of merch that exists for Hocus Pocus
is so
that's
much.
so
yeah.
weird how that works.
Yeah. It's crazy. Crazy. I mean, you can't even walk into a Joann's without seeing the Hocus Pocus cookie cutters, bakeware, all kinds of shirts.
The new little towels.
Winnie, I smell a child.
Yeah.
Come, we fly. All that stuff.
Yes.
Several years later, in 2001, Disney began a push to turn many of their theme park rides into films. The Haunted Mansion was optioned once again, but with an entirely different storyline that wouldn't have anything to do with the original script. David Berenbaum, the screenwriter behind the hit holiday classic Elf, was responsible for the new screenplay.
Adam's favorite holiday movie. That reminds me, we need to come up with our Christmas episodes. Elf?
Yeah.
Elf?
Look. For those of you about to sharpen your pitchforks, come after me. I don't hate the movie. I just think it's extremely overrated. Thank you.
And good night. No.
You can tweet your hatred
Do you need help off the soapbox?
Yeah.
I
Need two hands down.
Very good. Very good.
Producer and director Rob Minkoff, who directed The Lion King
Hey.
in 1994, took the director's chair. Berenbaum channeled the spirit of horror comedies of the past by using references to films like Young Frankenstein, The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, and the various Abbott and Costello horror comedies.
Yeah, the Ghost of Mr. Chicken and Abbott and Costello being the average Joe walks into a haunted situation. He's surprised, he's scared. Hilarity
go.
ensues.
Antics happen.
Woo!
And there are a couple of very clear references to Young Frankenstein
Ooh,
in the
nice.
movie. At the very beginning, they go up to the door and he goes, "Look at these knockers. These are some nice knockers."
It was clear from the beginning that the most important piece of the film was its title character, the Haunted Mansion. Although the film's version of the mansion doesn't follow the design of the ride exactly, a lot of care and attention went into building the set.
I think one of the biggest criticisms of fans of the ride was that the Haunted Mansion in the movie doesn't necessarily mirror what...
No,
Right.
Yeah.
it looks like more of a typical Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
The exterior of the mansion was made to look like the swamps of New Orleans to fit the original location of the ride. The exterior trees were built in, and set decorators hung moss from them. The first 3 floors of the exterior mansion were built with the attic, chimney, and spires digitally added. Production designer John Meyer created the illusion that the house is always watching by placing eyes in the metal framework, wallpaper, and any other location.
Creepy.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
eyes and faces.
Ugh.
No.
Everywhere you look.
Yeah. The designers began sketching the interiors of the mansion and then built foam core models. They then used a lipstick camera, which is a very small camera that's roughly the size and shape as a tube of lipstick.
Yeah, I had to look that up. I was like,
Yes.
the heck is a lipstick
What?
camera?
camera.
Goes in their mouth.
Yeah, they're like,
Oh.
ready to go.
Yeah. Lights. Camera.
I thought, honestly, I was like, is it a camera that literally only looks at your lips? Like,
Yeah, for like serious close-ups.
Yeah, no. Well, they used this lipstick camera to mimic certain shots that they wanted to create. Then they created a 3D computer visual of the mansion before beginning construction.
Aha.
That's a lot of little steps, but
Mhm.
it helps them in the end get what they want to see out of it. So
Yeah.
works. The interior sets were located on sound stages in Barwick Studios. It's so rare that film crews get to work on gigantic sets like this one, so the team was often in awe of the expansive rooms and their meticulous detail.
yeah, this is 2003. These rooms are all there, except for like one
Wow.
or two, maybe. And so generally, like, they're actually on this set, like
Mhm.
walking through this huge ballroom, the dining room, the library,
Damn.
and all of that was built. And it reminds me of Casper. We talked about Casper, which mid-90s,
Yeah.
and same thing where they literally
Yeah.
built Whipstaff Manor. Like, that was,
Mm-hmm.
that's not something that really happens anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always get a little bit sad looking at like some behind the scenes footage of
Mhm.
new movies where it's
Yep.
like, sure, some of it's built that their actors are standing on, but there's so much like blue
Yeah,
Yeah.
or green behind them.
I know. It's just an actor in front of a blue thing doing blue stuff,
I'm
and I'm like, man,
single tear.
you have to be really good at acting. I mean, I feel like that's where it comes from, that like the black box theater kind of
Yeah.
acting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you have to be able to visualize your surroundings. You can't
Yeah.
see it.
right.
No. Set decorators Rosemary Brandenburg and Jeff Williams filled the mansion with all kinds of strange and creepy objects. One featured item is the red couch in the library, which was actually a set piece from Disney's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. There was also a webbing team which came in and sprayed cobwebs and dust all throughout the set to maintain that dirty, dingy look.
Oh man,
That sounds fun.
I remember we talked about that in our Casper episode
Yeah.
too. With
Yeah, the resin guns.
Yes.
the gun.
I want one of those. I want to do it, and I want to use one. I want to cover it because it looks.
Yes.
It looks like. It doesn't
It
look
looks like real webs.
You know how
yeah.
you go to the store now and you buy
Mhm.
and it's like cotton that's kind of like torn and
Yeah,
like
and
stretched.
then you
right?
kind of stretch
That kind
it.
of looks like
Mhm.
spider webs in a way. It's like cartoonified spider webs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This looks like legit cobwebs.
yeah, it
Yes.
does.
And that is so cool that they can just shoot it like spray paint. They're
Yeah.
just like some here
Yes.
and
It's like
some over
silly
there.
string. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like,
It reminds me of the Addams Family where they do that too. Like
Oh,
yeah.
purposely do
Where they
that.
add the
They add
cobwebs and the
cobwebs
dust.
to
Yeah.
it.
so cool.
Yeah, that couch. If you watch the movie, you will see it. They do sit
Yeah.
on it. It's there. It's from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is a huge, very important Disney film.
Yeah.
Like the live action
Mhm.
Disney film that, was originally meant to be animated. And but then when Walt Disney saw how beautiful the ocean was in real life, he said, we just need to do that. We don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that being one of the ones where the ride came after.
Yeah.
There you go.
Costume designer Mona May created all of the outfits from the whimsical spirits to the 19th century ball gowns. In the opening sequence, there is a ballroom scene filled with actors in period costume. Later on, the ghosts wear the exact same costumes. Mona May has worked as a costume designer on over 70 projects, including Enchanted and Clueless.
The clothes in Clueless are iconic.
Oh, yes, they are.
Very,
Yeah.
very big and big part of that movie is what they
Yeah.
wear.
Yep.
Filming for the Haunted Mansion began in January of 2003 and wrapped in June of the same year. The film starred comedian and actor Eddie Murphy. Several years earlier, Murphy delivered a stand-up routine explaining why he would never stay in a haunted house. So casting him in the film added an extra layer of subtle humor.
Yeah. It's one of his most famous bits.
Yeah. British actress Marsha Thompson played Sarah Evers. She essentially had to play two characters, the modern-day Sarah and her 19th century counterpart. Thompson perfected an American accent for one character and used an English accent for the other.
Yeah, she had a very thick Manchester
Yeah.
accent, an accent of somebody in Manchester, England. And so she actually, the two accents she uses in the movie, neither one of them is her natural voice.
Wow.
Yeah, the first one is the American accent, and then the
Yeah.
second one is like a very proper British.
Yeah, the
That's
Queen's
incredible.
English.
Yeah.
Ari Davies played Megan Evers, the snarky daughter to Eddie Murphy's Jim. In her introductory scene, she smashed a spider with a magazine. The spider was made of plastic and filled with custard that spilled once it was crushed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Ugh.
cool.
Practical spider.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that is so little, but
Yeah.
makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Mark John Jeffries played Michael. Even though his character was younger than his sister, Jeffries is actually older than his co-star, Ari Davis.
Yeah, he looks so much smaller than
Yeah, he
plays
does.
he plays a 10-year-old.
Right.
So when the movie came out, 2003, she was 12 and he was 13.
Wow.
But in the movie they play 13 and 10-year-old.
Wow. Nice.
Well, he does a great job then.
Yeah, time travel.
Yeah.
The mansion staff and ghostly characters were played by a group of character actors that, despite what the critics said, gave comedic performances.
I thought they did fine.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wallace Shawn and Dina Spybay Waters played Ezra and Emma, the bumbling house staff that helps the Evers.
Yeah, these guys are cute.
Jennifer Tilly used her distinctive voice to play the mesmerizing Madame Leota. You might recognize Tilly's voice from Monsters, Inc.
I think that's
Yeah.
probably the number one thing when I'm watching it. I'm like, whoa,
Mhm.
that's definitely Celia from Monsters Inc.
Yeah. Terrence Stamp played the villainous Ramsley, the proper butler of Master Gracie. Stamp is a proper British gentleman that has had many roles, including parts in Star Wars and the His Dark Materials series.
Yeah.
Yes.
He is one of those guys now
Mhm.
that's like, oh, it's the guy that's in
Yeah.
the thing.
Yep. Like you see his face
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I
Oh,
recognize
that guy.
him.
There he
Yeah.
is. Yes. Nathaniel Parker plays the brooding Master Gracie, who attempts to woo Sarah in order to find his way back to his love, Elizabeth. While filming one scene where Parker carries Elizabeth's body up the stairs, Parker dropped the actress because her dress was slippery, and he had to perform the scene several times.
They said the tears and the pain in his eyes is real because
Oh,
he had just come
no.
back from working out too, and his arms are very sore. Just carrying her up the
Just
stairs.
like-
Why?
Yeah.
Should have skipped leg day.
You can't have the Haunted Mansion without the 999 haunts that lurk within its walls and among the grounds. The special effects team had the daunting task of recreating the fantastic visuals of the original ride for the screen. The look of the ghosts and ghouls in the film were largely due to Rick Baker, a legendary special effects makeup artist that is famous for his creature designs. Baker is a huge fan of the Haunted Mansion ride and wanted the film to look as close to the ride as possible. This is why I feel like we were too hard on this movie.
Yeah.
I think people like Rick Baker who worked so hard on it
Yeah.
and did such a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm.
I just watching the special features and watching the movie, I was like,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
he did such a good job.
Mhm.
Right.
Because a lot of the ghouls, the ghosts, I mean,
Yeah.
he did the full special effects makeup. Like,
Mhm.
those people looked like that.
Yeah.
And then they just stood in front of a blue screen. It's not like it was a fully animated person.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like, I mean, he did such a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, going that extra mile really adds to it.
Yeah.
And it kind of,
Yep.
it lasts longer.
It looks so good.
It does.
Yeah.
He designed makeup that mirrored the fantastical designs of Disney's Imagineers, including a painting by Mark Davis. Baker himself is unrecognizable in the scene as one of the ghosts.
Oh.
That's crazy.
So yeah, in the ride there's this, I think he's called the Ghost Host,
Mm-hmm.
and he's in a painting. He's not a ghost like on the ride, he's in a
Right.
painting, and he's got a noose around his neck and one big bulging eye. And Rick
Aw.
Baker put that on himself. And he looks
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's you hear him talking, you're like, oh my god, he doesn't look like a human being. It's it's
Yeah,
wild.
It's really creepy.
Yeah. Rick Baker was also responsible for the zombies that rise from the mausoleum and chase the Evers family. He started by creating paintings of what the zombies should look like, making them match the ghosts in terms of family friendliness. But Disney told him that they wanted them to actually be scary and to not hold back on his monster-making abilities.
Yeah.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The zombies are scary.
They're
Mhm.
so good.
Yeah, they're scary, and they don't. I love them because they don't look like Walking Dead zombies. These
Yeah.
are like they've been rotting forever. They just got reanimated because of some curse or something.
Right.
Yep.
That's what this is. And
Mhm.
honestly, they look so good.
They do. They look great.
Mhm.
And actually, it's funny. I believe this. I might be wrong, but I believe this is the only time in a Disney movie where they're actually referred to as zombies. Because you have creatures like this, and they're always called like ghouls
Mhm.
or something like that. But they're zombies here, and they're legit.
These are legit zombies for sure. Baker and his team made zombie molds of the thin actors that would play the undead. They sculpted clay bones over the actors' clothes and made sure that the actors could easily move in the bodysuits. There were about 15 to 20 zombies, and the actors all went through zombie school to learn how to act undead.
Very nice.
Yeah, and if you see from the behind the scenes, like, the stuff is pretty loose fitting on them.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So they can, like, do all kinds of stuff. They're not
Yeah.
in these tight, restrictive suits. But all you see is the bones and
Yeah. Yeah.
the rotting flesh. One of the most complex sequences in the film is when the living characters take a ghostly trip through the graveyard. The graveyard scene was a combination of motion control photography, matte painting, blue screen photography, and Steadicam. I was so thrilled that they at least were still doing the matte painting.
Yes.
We talked about this, I think, last year with Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Yes, we did.
Disney's done this forever. A lot of these people have done this forever. Is, the composite of painting as the background,
Mm-hmm.
which, I mean, fantastic. It looks
Oh,
so good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's just such a different look that you can't get any other way.
Yeah. The scene was one continuous shot that was filmed over several days and in several locations. The film crew led the camera through the physical graveyard, holding the camera in certain places just long enough for the audience to see each ghost, which at the time were played by stand-in actors.
Oh, imagine if this scene had all 999 though.
There are certainly a lot
There are a lot.
of ghosts in this
Yes.
scene. This is a really cool scene.
Mhm.
Because this is the only part of the movie where the characters kind of relax for a second
Mhm.
and they just kind of take in
Yeah.
what's around
Yeah.
them, which
Yeah.
is, I mean,
The insanity.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you get to see all of the ghosts, and this is the only part that's like the ride,
Yeah.
Right.
where it's
yeah.
like they're seeing the ghosts.
Excuse me. Why are all these ghosts still hanging around here?
When they died, they couldn't find the light, and now they're trapped.
Doomed to wander the earth for all eternity.
All of the ghost actors wore special effects makeup that captured the look of the spirits on the original ride and shot their scenes in front of a blue screen. Their costumes were covered in a special paint that reflected light, giving them a more ethereal effect. The team had to stage the ghost actors on blue boxes to make sure they matched up with the physical scene that they shot a month ago, making them appear on tree branches, on tombstones, and sitting in coffins.
That's so cool. They really made it work. That sounds really complicated and difficult, but it really works.
Yeah. The crew had to film a passing shot of each ghost in the scene, which could require several takes. The final product lasted for about 2 minutes of film.
Wow.
Man, oh man.
And they spent so much
So
time
much
on
time.
that.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, they did a passing shot, so like the camera is just like, you know, gliding past each character. They did
Yeah.
that separately in the studio too.
Yeah.
And it's just, my gosh.
One
yeah.
of the actresses that was playing one of the ghosts is like, you know, maybe eventually we'll get to go home in a couple years or so. Like,
We'll see.
you know,
She'll be done and it'll be a real
yeah,
ghost by
you
the
know,
time we get out.
exactly. I feel like she did joke something like that. Oh my gosh.
One of the most recognizable ghosts in the mansion is Madame Leota, played by Jennifer Tilly. Leota was originally named for Disney Imagineer Leota Toombs, and her looks were based on Toombs as well.
Aw,
Perfect name
that's
for
so
somebody
sweet. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right?
working on the Haunted Mansion. In order to get Jennifer Tilly's head into a crystal ball, they had Eddie Murphy carry around a glowing orb while filming. This way, the special effects team didn't have to add Leota's glowing light to the faces of the surrounding characters, but just had to composite Tilly's face into the ball.
Smart.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Great idea. Oh my gosh.
That would have been so much more work.
So much time.
Nightmare. And it wouldn't
Yeah.
have looked nearly as good.
No.
They filmed Eddie's scene first, and then Tilly filmed her parts while wearing a blue bib and sitting in front of a blue screen.
Mm-hmm.
Although most of the mansion was an elaborate set, certain rooms were completely computer generated. One scene shows Eddie Murphy being spun in a chair with floating instruments. Only Eddie and the chair were physically there, and the rest was added later.
Whew.
Oh man.
Yeah.
They didn't get flying instruments.
No.
That's something that
Unfortunately not.
I would love to see practical.
Yes.
Flying
Man,
instruments.
Yes.
Crazy. Yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh.
feel like they probably were worried they were gonna like hit Eddie in the head. with the
Yeah, that's
instrument.
probably, yeah.
It makes me think of like how they would do it on stage.
Mhm.
Would just be people holding the instruments up, but
Yeah,
they would be
wearing
wearing just
black.
like all black.
Yeah.
And they'd
Oh,
just
snap.
be ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
This is such
Yeah.
a like classic, 1800s spiritualism thing.
Mhm.
The chair with the floating instruments. This is
Yeah.
like a thing that people did in seances
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
mediums and all that stuff. It's a very classic haunt,
Oh, yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, if you listen back to one of our, I believe we talked about, because there was somebody in Ohio doing the very thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
we did an episode with another podcast, Grief Burrito,
Oh, that's what it was.
and we guested on their show. We did a spooky burrito with them, and we talked about that.
Yes, that's what it
Yes.
was. Go check that out.
Yeah.
Also, if I remember correctly, that chair that Eddie was sitting on could get pretty fast.
Oh God.
Yeah, I don't
thanks.
think I could handle that, but maybe.
Sounds
Especially in a circle. Like I can handle roller coasters, but I don't know about just like one circle. I don't know. Since the Haunted Mansion ride was telling a story, there needed to be music that helped the guests know what was happening along the way. The help of composer Buddy Baker, not to be confused with Rick Baker, who we just talked about, was enlisted by the story writer Ex Atencio. Baker had experience in composing for Disney movies like The Apple Dumpling Gang, The Fox and the Hound, and The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and more.
fantastic.
Great stuff.
Yeah. In his career, he composed more than 200 scores for Disney. These were not just for movies and television. He also scored many theme parks, including The Haunted Mansion. The final result of his and Ex Atencio's collaboration was called Grim Grinning Ghosts. The title of the song came from Shakespeare and actor Paul Frees recorded the spoken intro. The song is iconic and has appeared in several other Disney films.
One instance that I can think of that makes me laugh is Inside Out, when she first moves into the new place and hates it.
Yes,
And she
yes.
has a nightmare, reflecting the big move.
Yeah.
And when they're doing the nightmare, they're playing this song in the background.
Oh,
Snap.
So
man.
you just hear the organ.
Yeah.
Doo, 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 and like the rat leg appears. Like,
Shoot, I need to go
Oh,
watch that
snap.
back. I
Yeah,
did not catch
same.
that.
Same. Mark Mancina is known for composing music for movies like Speed, Tarzan, Brother Bear, Moana, and more. Mancina was excited to work with the director, Rob Minkoff, because they had known each other while working on the movies Lion King and Speed together. Minkoff really wanted to work in the ride's original music, Grim Grinning Ghosts, as he and Mancina enjoyed the original ride.
I think he did a fantastic job incorporating the song in this movie.
Absolutely.
When the movie first starts and like you're kind of just going through the halls of the haunted mansion and stuff,
Mhm.
you hear it. You hear the
Yeah.
music start, and I think he did a fantastic job. Also, Mark Mancina is basically one of the biggest unsung heroes of Disney.
I was gonna say the list of
Yeah.
movies here
Yeah.
And that's
is
just like very
That's only a
few.
few.
freaking great.
He has done so many
Yeah.
scores, and so many of them were for Disney. And
Mhm.
Yeah, freaking Brother Bear
Yeah.
is one of my absolute favorite
yes,
Disney movies.
yeah.
So good.
Come on.
In order to get a sense of what the score should be, Mancina was able to visit the set and even meet with some of the actors. The film's composition was quite large and used several different instruments. Some of these included the harpsichord, choir, pipe organ, and a full orchestra. It was really centered around classical instruments.
That's awesome. It fits perfectly in with that
Mhm.
19th century style.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like what you would hear as normal music back then.
yeah.
The only missing piece is the Halloween instrument, the theremin.
Ah.
But I know it wouldn't fit.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
It's okay. Mancina then worked with Dave Metzger to orchestrate the composition at his favorite recording place, Sony Studios. Minkoff was very supportive of this decision, both practically and financially. The scene with the famous singing heads uses a barber shop quartet.
My God, these singing heads got so many
So
laughs in the
good.
theater when I saw this.
Yes. Mancina, although he knew that it was perfect for the talking heads, was not actually a fan of barbershop quartets. And while Mancina took a bathroom break, the group was told of his dislike. They went into the restroom and freaked Mancina out when he sat down by beginning to sing right there.
Yeah, so
Oh,
he said right as his
no.
butt touched the toilet,
Touched the toilet.
he pulled down his pants. Yeah, right as the butt touched the toilet, they started singing
Wow.
in barbershop
In
quartet. He
barbershop,
didn't
yeah.
even know they were in there.
Nope.
Oh
So
my
when he
gosh.
came running out of the stall and the bathroom, Minkoff and Don Hahn were there laughing.
So mean.
Oh, it's awful.
God, that'd be horrifying. Honestly,
Yeah.
even if I didn't, I mean, I don't hate barbershop,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but like if I thought no one was in the bathroom and suddenly
And then,
there's like
yeah.
4 people and they're singing, oh no.
This quartet appeared again at the premiere, where they would sing, especially people's names, like Mark Mancina's.
It reminds me of having the staff of a restaurant
Mhm.
come sing happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
And it sounds
Yeah.
like an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, no, it does. It does sound like
even though I think barbershop quartets sound really good,
I do too.
Same.
I couldn't handle that.
I wonder how much of their part was ad-libbed.
Yeah.
When he goes out and he
Oh,
says,
yeah.
I need to find the key. And they're like, find the key, find the key, find the beautiful key.
Mhm.
Oh, how happy you'll be. Because they seem to be such a good group that work really well together.
Just grab the last word he says and
Yeah.
do something with it.
Take off with
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So like we said at the beginning of the movie, the critics and fans originally were not kind to this movie.
They were straight up hostile.
Yeah.
Mean.
Yes. We're talking a little bit about the reception here. We like this movie, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, I'm not going to say that this is, like, one of my favorite movies of all time.
oh sure, yeah.
I think during spooky season, this movie's great.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's just a fun little ride.
They made a Muppets version of it.
Yes, they
so,
did.
I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah. At first, the film didn't look like a financial success. With a big budget of $90 million, it only grossed about $24 million on its opening weekend and earned a domestic total of just under $76 million. However, the film did much better in international markets, grossing an additional $106 million. That's a total of over $206 million.
So it made money.
Yeah.
But, it didn't make pirate money.
Right.
Because Pirates was such an international success.
Right.
And so to Disney, this was not good.
Yes. Unfortunately, though, critics are not kind to the film. It has a score of 14% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I think this is the lowest scored movie we've ever done an episode
It
on.
might be.
And we did an episode on Teen Wolf, people.
Yeah.
Right?
Just letting everybody know.
Yeah. It also has an average rating of about 4.2 out of 10 across other
Oh my goodness.
review sites.
Oh.
Many critics say the film is neither scary nor funny.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I think there are funny lines in this movie.
Yeah.
I remember even being a kid and there being the part where something's in Latin and he's like, "Oh, you guys know Latin. Can you read that?" And they're like, "You made me quit Latin, Dad. You said it was a dead language." And then Eddie Murphy kind of gestures around. He goes, "Oh, yeah, we see how wrong I was about that now, don't we?" Yeah.
And additionally, the audience score is not much better at 32%, which
Aw.
is
Ouch.
just straight up
That's
rude.
rough.
It's not all bad news, though. Many fans of the movie say it's the perfect spooky film to break out for Halloween, like
Yeah.
we said,
Yeah.
including Sherry Linden of Hollywood Reporter, who called the film a pleasant and atmospheric family romp, offering enough mildly chilling thrills to keep anyone entertained during its brief runtime.
Yeah.
Aw.
Additionally, The Haunted Mansion has grown in popularity since its original theatrical run, and to many has achieved cult status. Author and Disney historian Jeff Baham notes that The Haunted Mansion has increased in popularity in part because of its original target audience growing up with an appreciation for the film, and who now, as adults, are introducing it to their children.
Yeah, I think I appreciate the movie probably because I saw it as a kid.
Mhm.
Yes.
And while I see that there are problems with it, I definitely don't think it deserved,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
what
The
happened.
hate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
just kind of, I feels like a wrong place, wrong time kind of
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because
Yeah.
other than that, really, there's nothing wrong with it. I just,
Right. I see why people who were diehard fans of the ride were disappointed.
yeah, I suppose so.
Because
Yeah.
it didn't follow a ride storyline. It had something new and different.
Hmm.
The mansion itself looks different, and
Yeah.
so there's going to be a reboot.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming out soon.
Hmm.
It's going to have Jamie Lee Curtis and Winona Ryder in it.
Oh.
It's going to be a very,
That'd be
very high
interesting,
budget,
yeah.
very, heavily produced project. So
Interesting.
that'll be interesting, sure. But I definitely don't think that should erase this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here are some fun facts.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
Can't wait.
The DVD release came with several special features, including a virtual interactive ride of the film's Haunted Mansion with Emma and Ezra as hosts. In one of the film's scenes at a tiki bar, this is pretty early in the movie, all three hitchhiking ghosts can be seen as background actors.
Nice.
Man.
Mm.
Originally, the film's mansion was to be based on the ride in Disney World and take place in upstate New York. However, many in production, including director Rob Minkoff, felt it would be better suited to use the original Disneyland attraction as inspiration, as well as move it to New Orleans to reference the ride's park location at New Orleans Square.
Yeah, it's such a better fit. Because
Yeah.
it has that vibe where it's like, you know what? The people around might be like, ooh, I believe that place is haunted.
The Dapper Dans, the barbershop quartet that performs in Disneyland's Main Street USA, make a special appearance as the voices of the singing busts.
There they are.
Yay.
That's so cute.
So they're at Disneyland still.
Yes, that's awesome. The 3 tarot cards that appear in the opening credits are the Lovers, which represents love, harmony, relationships, values, alignment, and choices. Death, which represents endings, change, transformation, and transition. And the 3 of Swords, which represents heartbreak, emotional pain, sorrow, grief, and betrayal.
Whoa. Very interesting.
I believe originally they had Madame Leota explaining the cards
Yeah.
in the beginning of the movie,
yes.
but they cut that out because it was kind of like, we don't need that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, which I agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
But it is cool to know what the cards mean because it's
Yes.
like, wow.
I bet you there were some tarot cards like nerds in the
Oh, yeah.
audience, like,
Yeah.
ooh,
They
I
know
know what's
exactly what they
coming.
were. Yeah.
it's pretty cool. That's
Mhm.
super, super cool.
Yeah, it's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, any final thoughts on this movie before we wrap it up?
I mean, we kind of said it a few times already,
Yeah.
but I do think that this movie was kind of not given a fair shake.
Yeah.
I think that watching it as a kid, I probably had more of an appreciation for it than adults. But, as an adult now, I don't have that much nostalgia for it. It's not like
Yeah.
it was, some huge benchmark of my childhood.
Yeah.
And so I don't have that kind of relationship with it. But looking at it, I can say, like, well, it's still pretty good. It's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
I think the actors did a pretty good job.
Yeah, and all the work that was put into
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah,
know,
and
how
now-
much they loved it.
Yeah, now I have a much bigger appreciation for it
Mhm.
because I saw how hard those special effects artists worked.
Yeah.
And, they really, Rick Baker especially too, just, he was so dedicated to making it look like the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
so for people to be so upset about it, I mean, I feel like that's
Yeah.
kind of. And hearing Mark Mancina talk about it too,
Yeah.
and him saying, I never actually get to talk about this score because
Mm-hmm.
nobody asks me about it. The movie didn't do well and people don't
Mhm.
like it.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yeah, because she asked him, she's like, "Oh, do they use your music from this anywhere else?" And he's like, "No, not really." He
No.
was like, "It was a flop, and they didn't
Bye-bye.
really want to
Yeah.
use my stuff for any."
Right.
he
at
was
least
very
this
blunt
one.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very enjoyable film,
Yeah.
and oh man, I gotta love Eddie Murphy too. Like,
Yeah.
he was
yeah.
one of those, like, when I was a kid, it was
It's,
always
yeah,
funny.
Yeah.
At this
Fun
time,
to see him in
and,
something.
and being super popular with Shrek
Mhm.
around the same time, and it's just, yeah, he's one of those ones that people recognize, especially from the early 2000s in
Mhm.
the movies like this. But I think this movie is one that needs to be added to people's Halloween
Yes.
list because, I should say for people who don't love horror like
Mhm.
me,
Yeah.
I struggle sometimes to come up with a list of things to watch around Halloween, right?
Mhm.
Because I've already watched Nightmare Before Christmas, so
Yeah.
I've
Mhm.
already watched this, I've already watched that. This needs to be added to that list because it fits perfectly in with the season without
Yeah.
feeling like a horror movie,
Yeah.
right? And it, obviously it's not trying to be one, and
Yeah,
I'm glad that movies like that exist.
they kept elements in it that were legitimately scary.
Oh yeah.
And I think that was really cool.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
like a little bit of a little more grown up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It did kind of freak kids out a
Mhm.
little
Yeah.
bit, but
Mhm.
not enough that it was, it walked the line that Pirates of the Caribbean walks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Where it's
Mhm.
creepy and
Mhm.
scary,
Yeah,
but not that,
but not.
not that creepy and scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The Haunted Mansion is an interesting case. It's a film that didn't live up to the expectations of fans, yet still has enough staying power to be revisited every Halloween. It was created by an incredible team of filmmaking artists that were dedicated to giving viewers a delightfully frightening experience. Often, when a film premieres, we might provide too much criticism or too much praise based on the trends of the time. It's very possible that The Haunted Mansion is a victim of the former, and it may be a film that deserves a second chance. So if you're so inclined, consider resurrecting this ghostly delight this Halloween season and decide for yourself if it belongs in the grave.
Oh.
Oh.
that will do it, everybody. That is going to be a case closed. So thank you, everyone, for listening very much.
Thank you.
But before we go, we'd like to thank our patrons: Joel, John, Jacob, Jacqueline, JD, Anthony, Shelly, Linda, Bob, Jaron, and Brad.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you all very much. We
Thank
appreciate you, and we hope you enjoyed the extended episode.
Thank you.
Yes.
And be sure to check out There Are No Small Parts.
Yes.
There's now a link on the front page of our website, blackcasediaries.com.
Yep.
Click on that. Please listen to it.
Please
I know
do
it sounds like we're begging, and it's because we are.
Yes. We are
Please.
imploring
Yeah.
you to listen.
Please listen to it. We have one up already for spooky season.
I bet you can't guess who it is before the end.
Mm.
I challenge you.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
What?
If you guess who it is before the end, tell us. And tell
Yeah.
us at what time.
Yes.
You know, that's kind of a fun little game.
Mm-hmm.
You can now buy us a popcorn at buymeacoffee.com/blackcasediary. And thank you to all that support us, whether it be through listening, telling a friend, or donating.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate you, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Hurry back.
Guys on the road!
Move over!
What are you doing?
You keep driving, you'll kill Sal!
Well, that's where you're wrong, because some of us are